All right, let's just jump right in. When we look up at the night sky, it feels silent, right? Empty, like we're totally alone. But what if that's just our perspective? What if the Milky Way is actually buzzing with thousands of alien empires, and we just happen to live in a really quiet part of town? Today, we're going to explore a completely new way of thinking about our place in the cosmos. It's the big one, isn't it? The question that keeps you up at night if you think about it too much. If the galaxy is so huge and so old, where is everybody? This is, of course, the famous Fermi paradox. And it's the perfect place to start, because the answer might be hiding in a huge assumption we've all been making without even realizing it. So, on one hand, you have the standard view that once a civilization gets starships, galactic conquest is pretty much inevitable. Space is like a highway, and someone should have driven all over it by now. But what if that's just fundamentally wrong? What if space isn't a highway at all? What if it's a vast, dangerous, and incredibly difficult ocean?
The whole idea behind the Great Silence is actually pretty straightforward. The Milky Way has been around for billions of years, longer than Earth. That's tons of time for countless civilizations to pop up, figure out interstellar travel, and just spread out. The numbers alone seem to scream that the galaxy should be a bustling, noisy place.
I mean, think about that. 1,000,000 years. To us, that sounds like an eternity. But on a galactic clock, it's nothing. It's the blink of an eye. So if expansion was as easy as we thought, someone should have colonized pretty much everything by now. The fact that we don't see one massive, galaxy-spanning empire is the real mystery here. But here's where we poke a hole in that whole idea. We just assume that with enough technology, zipping between stars becomes trivial, like catching a bus. But what if it doesn't? What if the universe is just hard? What if the sheer distances and dangers of space are a fundamental wall that even the most advanced tech can't just wave away? This question leads to a totally new way of thinking. So let's reimagine this whole galactic colonization thing. Let's scrap the sci-fi idea of a lightning-fast takeover and instead think about something a little more human. Let's look at the only real example of massive expansion we have, our own history. And you know what? Our own past gives us the perfect model for this. The Polynesian expansion across the Pacific Ocean. It's a fantastic analogy. You've got countless destinations, these islands, all separated by a vast, deadly void. It's basically our galaxy in miniature. And you gotta understand the sheer scale of this. We're not talking about a few islands here and there. We're talking tens of thousands of them spread across millions of square miles of open ocean. For people in canoes, finding even one of them was an absolutely mind-boggling achievement against insane odds. But here's the kicker. Most of those islands were completely useless for setting up a new home, just wet rocks sticking out of the water. Others might have looked good from a distance but had no fresh water or food. Only a tiny, tiny fraction were the good islands where a society could actually survive and thrive. Sound familiar? But here's the incredible part. They did it. Against all odds, the Polynesians found those rare, good islands. They settled them. They even built these amazing trade routes between them, creating a whole network of cultures and kingdoms. It wasn't one giant empire, but this complex, clustered web of humanity. But this web was super fragile. The story of the Pitcairn Islands is a powerful warning. A colony thrived there for centuries, but it was incredibly isolated and depended on trade with islands hundreds of miles away. When those trade routes were lost, we don't know why, the society just collapsed. The people vanished. Isolation, it turns out, can be a death sentence. Okay, so let's take this whole model, the ocean, the islands, the danger of isolation, and apply it to the stars. Let's swap the Pacific Ocean for the Milky Way, and islands for planets. What does our galactic real estate market actually look like? At first glance, the numbers look amazing, right? Scientists estimate there could be billions of so-called Earth-like planets in the right zone for liquid water. You'd think that's a whole lot of good islands just waiting for us. But that term, Earth-like, oh man, can that be misleading? I mean, just look next door. Mars and Venus are both technically Earth-like planets near the habitable zone. But one is a frozen, radiated, poisonous desert, and the other is a literal acid-fueled pressure cooker from hell. If that's what Earth-like usually means, then most of the available real estate out there is just awful. And think about the economics of it all. Does it really make sense to fund a mission that takes hundreds of years just to arrive at a toxic fixer-upper that you then have to spend millennia terraforming? The math just doesn't add up. Any smart civilization would probably skip all the bad islands and only aim for the absolute best. So this completely changes the map. It gives us a brand new picture of a potential galactic community. It's not one single solid empire, but more like a flickering constellation of life, clustered together in the good spots and completely absent from the bad. In this model, the Great Silence has a super simple explanation. We're just in the middle of nowhere. Our part of the galaxy might just be a vast stretch of bad islands. That would make us the cosmic equivalent of the Pitcairn Islands, too remote, too isolated for anyone to bother visiting. But, and this is the really exciting part, that doesn't mean the whole ocean is empty. In other parts of the galaxy, star systems with genuinely good, habitable planets might be clustered way closer together. That would make interstellar travel, trade, and settlement way more practical. And that right there is the big idea. A galaxy that's not empty but filled with thousands of smaller regional empires. Civilizations that rise and fall, that trade with each other, maybe even go to war with each other, all within their local cluster of good islands, completely unaware of a lonely little planet in a distant cosmic backwater. And there are some really good practical reasons why these empires would probably stay small. For one, stars themselves are always moving, so stellar neighborhoods drift apart over millions of years. Then you've got the simple fact that civilizations are fragile. They can wipe themselves out. Plus, how do you roll an empire when it takes 50 years just to send a message? And over thousands of years, colonists on different worlds could literally evolve into entirely new species. So let's reel it all back in. What does this galactic ocean theory really mean for us, right here, right now on planet Earth? It means our loneliness, it might just be a temporary state. We feel alone because, for now, we are alone. We're like that lost colony on Pitcairn, an isolated outpost, maybe waiting for the cosmic currents to shift. Or maybe we're waiting for ourselves to finally build a canoe strong enough to cross the void on our own. And this leaves us with one last fascinating thought. How does this idea make you feel? Is it comforting to think that we're not actually alone, just isolated for now? Or is it maybe a little more terrifying to imagine a cosmos secretly crowded with countless unknown empires, knowing that one day we might just drift into their neighborhood? It's something to think about the next time you look up at the stars.